So let me tell you the story of the time the queen of our HOA rolled up in her spotless $60,000 Lexus and just parked it right in my garage. Not my driveway, not in front of my house, not anywhere remotely close to acceptable, inside my garage. Like she owned the place, didn't even ask, didn't even text, just parked. Left her car in the spot where my workbench, my old tools, and the last shred of peace I had in my week belonged. You ever walk in after a 12-hour shift, boots heavy, back aching, hands raw, from fishing wires through hospital crawl spaces, and instead of the smell of sawdust and engine grease, you get hit with this overpowering wave of luxury car leather and overpriced perfume? Yeah, that happened. Her car alarm chirped at me like I was the intruder. I asked her, polite as a Sunday school teacher, to move her ride. She didn't even look up from her phone, just waved a thick binder full of HOA guidelines and told me to respect the community hierarchy, whatever that meant. Now, 4 weeks after that circus, I'd come back from a rare vacation to find my street roped off with police tape and news vans stacked up like it was the site of a disaster. And there she was, Queen Karen herself, begging me not to report her to the state board. She looked like she'd spent the night in a storm drain. And trust me, she wasn't smelling like victory. Before I get to how her little power trip came back and bit her, let me ask, ever had someone in authority just assume your property was theirs? Ever felt the sting of watching someone take over your space like it belonged to them? Yeah, drop where you're watching from, I want to know. My name's Adam Collins. A year and a half ago, I thought moving into Willow Springs Heights meant I'd finally made it. Not Instagram mansion made it, not country club membership made it. Just, peace. I'm 35 years old, been an electrician since I was old enough to climb a ladder, and spent half my 20s working in the rain, half my 30s fixing wires nobody else would touch. I don't wear a suit. My countertops aren't marble, and my idea of a fancy membership is the punch card at the local sandwich shop. But I had something better, a front door with my name on the deed. To me, that meant everything. I'm a single dad, too. My daughter Lily's 7, and she spends every other weekend with me. And listen, I'm not a collector of anything fancy. I collect the sound of her laughter in my living room. That's it. I spent 5 years patching old boots with duct tape instead of buying new ones. 5 years of cold coffee mornings. 5 years whispering to myself, just a little longer, Adam. Just a little more. Then the day came, my first real front yard, a driveway, a garage with space to build something instead of just dreaming about it. That garage. It was for the treehouse I'd promised Lily, for a shelf to hold my dad's old radio, for 1,000 tiny memories I'd pictured before I'd even moved a single box inside. That was my sanctuary, not just square footage peace, not HOA politics, not neighbors policing grass like the FBI of lawns, just wood tools, sweat quiet. When I first arrived, the neighborhood looked picture perfect. New houses, kids on bikes, retirees walking little sweater-wearing dogs that probably cost more than my car. People waved, made small talk at the mailbox, put up Christmas lights like stepping into a postcard. The HOA's welcome packet made everything sound simple. Keep your grass neat. No loud noise after 9 trash bins inside by morning. Fine. I follow rules. I mind my business. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to raise my kid, fix a few wires, eat dinner, and enjoy my garage. And for a little while I did. I'd work late, come home to Lily's drawings taped to the fridge, trace the outline of the treehouse I'd build. I'd close the garage door, hear nothing but my own breathing and the hum of my old shop fan. Peace has a sound and it's quiet. But peace has enemies. Some people can't mind their own business because controlling others is the only way they feel important. In our neighborhood, that person wore designer sunglasses, carried a clipboard like a royal scepter, and acted like power wasn't earned. It was enforced. Her name was Karen Whitmore, HOA, treasurer, self-appointed guardian of community standards, queen of the universe inside her own head. Didn't know it at the time, standing in my garage on move-in day, running my hand across the workbench, picturing Lily handing me nails with her paint-covered fingers. But the moment Karen saw my work truck, my calloused hands, and a guy who earned his house instead of inheriting it, she decided I didn't fit her picture. And people like her, they don't tolerate what doesn't fit. They try to control it, reshape it, own it, or remove it. Some neighbors build fences to feel safe. Karen built rules, wore them like armor. The thing about people who crave control, they don't attack with fists. They attack with paper fines, whispers, pretending it's all about community. They test boundaries until they believe the world belongs to them. Me, I didn't move here to fight. Didn't want trouble. Just wanted to build a treehouse grill, a burger show my daughter what home feels like. But bullies don't ask if you want a problem, they create one and dare you to solve it. My mistake was thinking peace would be respected. Her mistake was thinking silence meant surrender. She never learned hanging in my garage is a hammered metal sign I made years ago. Never start a fight but finish every one. And she was about to find out what happens when you mistake quiet for weak. Or the first time I ever saw her, she wasn't even looking at me, just staring at my lawn like it personally offended her bloodline. I'd just finished unloading wire spools from my truck, sweat dripping down my neck, hands still smelling like copper and dust. Warm afternoon world felt tired in that peaceful way. Then she appeared, perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect white walking shoes that probably never touched real dirt. Sunglasses you'd see on someone who believed she was famous, clipboard tucked under her arm, like she was directing a movie called Everyone Must Follow Me. Didn't say hello, didn't wave, didn't nod. She looked at my grass, my truck, my boots, slow judging like she was inspecting livestock, not meeting a neighbor. That was my introduction to Karen Whitmore. The woman who believed property lines were suggestions and authority was her birthright. Her voice finally broke the silence. We try to maintain standards here. Sweet on the outside, venom underneath. I just wiped my brow, took a sip from my old metal water bottle. She looked at that too, like even my water bottle failed her invisible test. She pointed lightly at my driveway. Work trucks are supposed to be parked facing outward. Visual standard thing? I nodded once, calm. No argument. Not because she was right, she wasn't, but because I learned long ago the worst thing you can do to someone who craves control is not react. It bothered her instantly. The twitch at the corner of her lip, the stiffening of her shoulders. She expected pushback. Resistance fuels people like that. But I gave her nothing. She didn't leave. Stood there like she needed to win a moment that didn't even exist yet. Then she glanced at my boots, the frayed laces, the leather worn thin. Her lips curled like she smelled something rotten. Most of the residents here prefer to store work materials in the garage to maintain curb appeal. Translation, your truck looks too blue-collar for my perfect street. I smiled politely, a real smile because nothing irritates entitlement like genuine calm. I'll take care of it, I said. No tone, no fight, just a statement. She blinked, not prepared for that. Across the street, an older couple walking their dog froze mid-step, watching us like they could sense a storm forming on a sunny day. Curtains shifted in windows. A garage door 3 houses down opened halfway, then slid back shut. People weren't avoiding her, they were hiding from her. In the way they looked at me, there was something like pity in their eyes. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because they knew. They'd all been here before. Didn't know the history yet, didn't know she'd find a guy for having a cooler in his truck bed or made a kid scrub chalk art off the sidewalk because pastels clash with neutral community tones. Didn't know she had a reputation you could trip over. Didn't know half the houses on this street had learned to breathe silently when she walked by. But I could feel it, the tension, the way people watch their lawns more than their children. This wasn't a neighborhood. It was a stage, and she was the self-appointed director. She looked at my house, then down at her clipboard, scribbling like she was writing a commandment. We expect everyone to uphold the image of Willow Springs Heights, she said. The way she said we, she meant me. I looked at my house, the one I'd saved for, fought for, sacrificed for, and for a second I felt small. Not because she made me feel that way, but because I realized I'd walked into a place where power didn't come from kindness. It came from control. And she controlled everything, or thought she did. She stepped back, adjusted her sunglasses, sealing the deal. "Welcome to the community," she said, and turned away. Heels clicking back, straight confidence dripping off her like perfume. I watched her go. Not angry, not shaken, just observant. People like her always tell you who they are before they show you. And I learned something that day. Not about lawns or rules, but about threats disguised as smiles. I glanced at my boots, at my truck, loud, dented, honest. Funny. I've worked with live wires, angry customers, crawl spaces, sparks an inch from my face, never been intimidated by any of it. But this woman was a different kind of danger, not physical, psychological. The kind that quietly chips away at you until you forget you had a spine in the first place. I wasn't going to forget. Not then. Not ever. That day I walked into my garage, shut the door, and sat on my old wooden stool, the one my dad built. Ran my hands across the workbench, exhaled, let the smell of sawdust settle in my lungs. The world felt normal again, honest. She couldn't touch this space. Not yet. And sitting there, wiping sweat and dust off my palms, I didn't think of fights or battles or war. I thought of lily of wood scraps turning into treehouse steps of laughter, echoing instead of orders and regulations. But peace is fragile, and some people break it just to prove they can. I didn't know it then, but that quiet moment in the garage was the last peaceful one I'd have for a long time. Because while I sat there planning a treehouse, she was already planning control, and she had just circled her next target, me. There are tired days, and then there are days when your bones feel heavier than your toolbox. This was one of those. I'd spent 12 hours running emergency wiring in a pediatric clinic after a surge knocked out half their equipment left, that place smelling like insulation and copper shirt sticking to my back, brain buzzing like a transformer about to blow. All I wanted was a shower, a cold drink, and 10 quiet minutes sitting on my stool in my garage, my sanctuary. I turned onto my street as the sun dipped low, painting warm gold over the roofs. Kids were inside sprinklers, ticking in the yards, the kind of peaceful suburban evening you see in commercials. But peace ends fast when someone violates the one place you feel safe. I hit the garage opener from my truck. The door rumbled up that sound that always made me feel like the world was okay. Except, instead of my tools and lumber, I saw this gleaming white luxury SUV dead center, sitting like a trophy at a car show I never asked to host. Polished chrome, perfect paint, headlights blinking at me like the car itself was judging me. For a second, I thought maybe I opened the wrong garage exhaustion will play tricks on you. But then I saw my ladder shoved into the corner, my workbench pushed back, my extension cords tangled under the bumper. My world invaded. Then the smell hit, expensive leather floral perfume mixing with motor oil and sawdust, wealth and labor fighting in the air. To her, they never belonged together. And there she was, Karen, sitting in one of my patio chairs like she owned the sunset, scrolling her phone, not even acknowledging me as I stepped out of the truck. The audacity was so unreal, my brain took a second to catch up. I walked closer, voice steady. "Excuse me, there's a car in my garage." She lifted her sunglasses, dramatic and practiced, like she was unveiling a work of art. "Oh, Adam." She sighed like she was tired of explaining the world to the uninitiated. My driveway is being resurfaced, and the HOA emergency parking clause allows temporary use of available spaces during community maintenance. She said it like she was quoting scripture, like the HOA bylaws were holy pages she personally wrote. I blinked. Emergency parking clause. That wasn't a rule, and we both knew it. I haven't seen anything about that, I replied, unlocking my phone. Can you show me where that is? She smirked. We're updating the guidelines. This is part of a pilot enforcement program. Not a hint of shame, just pure entitlement dressed up as community concern. Anger crawled up my throat, but I swallowed it. My dad taught me men who yell lose power. Men who stay calm win battles. So instead of arguing, I hit record. My thumb tapped the screen so quietly she didn't notice. Just so I understand, I said, voice steady. You created a rule that doesn't exist yet, didn't tell anyone, and used my private garage without asking. Her eyes widened a crack in her confidence. You can't record me without permission, she snapped, reaching for my phone like she expected me to hand it over. I stepped back. Actually, this is my property, and this state only requires one-party consent. Her hand froze mid-reach. I saw the panic. She couldn't hide it fast enough. Control slipping, narrative shaking. She straightened, trying to pull herself back into queen mode. Brad will hear about this, she threatened. And the rest of the board, too. Brad, her husband, worked at city planning, wielded that title like a sword whenever she felt challenged. That's fine, I said. I'd love to hear the city's position on unauthorized private property use. The look she gave me then, if looks could evict, I'd have been homeless. She stormed off toward her house, heels snapping across my driveway like gunshots. The garage felt bigger once she left, but not in a good way. In a violated way, like someone had rifled through your dresser drawers, not because they needed to, but because they wanted to prove they could. I stood there a moment, breathing through the urge to break something. My tools, my space, my hard-earned peace treated like a spare shelf in a department store. I recorded a slow pan of everything, the car, the scratches on my workbench, the perfume fog in the air. Documentation isn't paranoia, it's armor. She didn't move the car that night. Didn't apologize, didn't even pretend she was mistaken, just walked inside like violating my space was nothing but a Tuesday chore. Next morning, before I'd even finished brewing coffee, soft tap at the door. Notice taped to the glass. HOA violation, garage left open overnight. Security hazard. Fine $75 escalating to $200 if unpaid within 48 hours. Handwritten note below, signed with a swooping K. Next time, follow community procedures. She invaded my garage and then fined me for it. I didn't yell, didn't slam the door, just laughed once, that low, tired laugh men make when they know something big just shifted and there's no going back. She'd turned it into a war without realizing I was the wrong man to provoke. She thought she owned the rules to street me, but she didn't understand. Garages aren't just doors and walls. Mine was a line in the sand and she'd just crossed it. The fine tape to my door wasn't the end, it was just the opening shot. Paper can feel heavier than stone when someone uses it as a weapon. Karen didn't throw punches, she threw policy signatures, official letterhead like arrows. That morning I stood in my kitchen holding the violation slip in one hand and my coffee in the other, steam rising the fridge, humming quietly. The sun hadn't even properly risen yet, she already had. People like her don't sleep, they plot. That much became clear. I went outside to take another picture of the fine, documenting everything. Working with electricity teaches you don't wait until the shock hits to protect yourself. You ground everything first. I was photographing the notice when I saw Mrs. Turner across the street watering her flowers. She gave me that look, the kind you give someone whose dog just ran away or whose car just got towed. Not curiosity, familiarity. She knew exactly what was happening. She'd seen it before. The sad part was she didn't even look surprised. "Morning, Adam," she called gently, like her voice might trigger the queen in her castle. "Morning," I replied. She glanced toward Karen's house, lowered her eyes. "She doesn't let go once she starts," she whispered, then turned back to her roses. Fear in a flower bed. That was Willow Springs Heights. That afternoon, I opened my email, a long, formal message from the HOA board, or really from Karen through the board, warning residents that a homeowner's negligence in securing property is causing concern about break-ins and neighborhood safety. No name, no direct accusation, but my garage had been her official concern hours before the target was clear. At the bottom, smaller text, report any suspicious contractor activity or unsecured garages immediately. Suspicious contractor, that was me, my truck, my tools, my job. She couldn't have made it clear if she had attached a photo of my face. Within an hour, the community group page was buzzing. Little comments, subtle jabs, people pretending to talk about general issues, but clearly circling me like digital vultures. Some folks just don't respect guidelines. Certain residents think rules don't apply to them. Contractor trucks should be monitored. I didn't respond. Scrolled, read every comment, screenshotted each one, and closed my laptop. You don't dive into mud when someone's already rolling in it. Let them get dirty alone. I walked outside, started sweeping my driveway, partly to clear wood dust, partly because work calms me. That's when I noticed blinds shifting in 2 windows. The silent surveillance of suburbia. People watching from behind curtains, pretending to water plants longer than needed, pausing dog walks in front of my driveway like the concrete held secrets. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just watches. That weekend, Lily came to stay. When she ran in backpack bouncing, ponytail swinging, everything felt normal again, like the world hit reset. She dropped her bag, hugged my leg, looked up at me, big, hopeful eyes. "Daddy, can we work on the treehouse today?" I smiled. "Of course, Peanut. Let's draw the ladder steps first." She clapped, ran to the table, pulled crayons from her bag. She peeked toward the garage door, then back at me, hesitating. "Daddy, is the, mean lady still mad at us?" Kids notice everything, every sigh, every extra second spent staring at a letter instead of answering a question. "What do you mean?" I asked gently. She was outside last time, she said, coloring a crooked tree. Looked at me like I'd spilled juice on her favorite dress. I swallowed. Anger isn't always loud. It's that pressure in your chest. When your child feels tension they never deserve to feel. "No one's mad at us," I told her softly. "Sometimes people forget how to be kind, but that's their problem, not ours." She nodded, satisfied, kept coloring. "I like our house," she said. "It feels happy." I kissed her head. "It is happy, and it's staying that way." That night, after she went to sleep, I sat at my kitchen table, looked at the fine, the email screenshots, the subtle comments, her smug little pilot rule. She thought she was building a case, thought paperwork made her invincible. She didn't realize I grew up watching my dad fight electricity, silent, invisible, deadly. You don't beat it by yelling at wires. You beat it by grounding the system and staying patient. Document first, respond later, win when it counts. So I created a folder on my computer, HOA evidence, and another on my phone. Photographed every notice, every message, every moment she crossed a line. It wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. Because the quiet man is never weak. He's loading ammunition you can't see. I lay in bed that night, listening to the soft hum of the AC and the steady breaths of my daughter through the baby monitor I still kept, even though she was 7. Peace has a sound, and so does the beginning of war. That night it was paper quiet, crisp, sharp. But power isn't in paper, power's in truth. And I was gathering it quietly. She thought she'd scored a win, thought she made me bend, thought I'd be scared. Instead, it was the moment she woke up the wrong man, and she had no idea. If there's one thing my dad taught me, it's this: when somebody tries to control you with rules, don't argue with noise. Go read the real rules. Argue with facts. And after Karen taped that fine to my door, after the HOA email thread lit up with her coded accusations, I knew it was time to learn exactly what power the HOA actually had and what power they were just pretending to have. So Monday morning, after I dropped Lily at school and finished a service call at a bakery 2 towns over, I drove to the county office. Not angry, not panicked, just curious, which in my experience is the most dangerous mindset a quiet man can have. Curiosity digs. Curiosity uncovers. Curiosity ends battles before they begin. The county courthouse was this old brick building, tall white pillars, steps worn down by generations of feet. The kind of place where once upon a time decisions got made with handshakes, not PDFs and angry emails. Inside it smelled like old paper and carpet and burnt coffee. There was a sign for property records and land documents. A woman with gray hair and thick glasses sat behind the counter typing slow but sure, like someone who's been keeping the county's secret since before the internet existed. She looked up as I set my ID down. "Morning," she said, warm as a quilt. "What can I do for you?" I smiled. "I need to see the deed for my property. Lot 231, Willow Springs Heights." She nodded. Tapped keys hummed quietly. "New homeowner?" "About a year and a half," I replied. "Beautiful area," she said, printing papers. Then lower, busy homeowners association, though. I let out a breath, a half laugh. "You could say that." She slid the pages toward me, official stamp signatures, legalese thicker than cement. "Here's your deed, legal property boundary survey, and county certified plat records." I flipped through line by line, and there it was, clear as sunlight through my garage window. My property line wasn't where Karen believed it ended. It extended farther, fully covering my garage and then some, my land, my walls, my space, not shared, not community property, certainty on paper. And then something else, a note in bold letters, HOA plat maps based on preliminary developer survey. Official property boundary determined only by county deed. That one sentence hit harder than any punch she could throw. I looked up at the clerk. "So if an HOA map shows something different than this..." She didn't let me finish. "The deed wins," she said, matter of fact. "Every time. County deed trumps HOA drawings and preliminary plats. Those are just templates until final legal recording." She said it so casually, like it was common knowledge, but to me it felt like someone just handed me a shield in a battle I didn't even know I needed armor for. She leaned closer. "You having neighbor trouble?" I sighed. "Something like that." She nodded, that slow, tired nod of someone who's seen the same story play out too many times. "We get a lot of folks from HOA neighborhoods in here. Best advice, keep everything. Document everything. And remember, the law lives in paperwork, not personalities." I folded the documents carefully, like they were fragile gold, and thanked her. As I walked out, the sunlight hit the pages in my hand like a spotlight. It was quiet justice, the best kind. No yelling, no confrontation, just truth. Silent and steady, like a circuit waiting to be switched on. Driving home, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt grounded, empowered, calm in a way only knowledge can make you. She had fines and emails and intimidation. I had the deed, the law, the truth, and patience. And when someone wages war with arrogance, patience is deadly. I parked in my driveway and looked at my garage, the place she thought she could claim. It looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. Now it felt fortified, not with locks or alarms, but with boundaries in black ink, with proof. Inside, I scanned the papers, saved copies to 2 drives, emailed one to myself, and put the originals in a drawer. Not paranoid. Prepared. There's a difference. People with power fantasies hate documentation. It's sunlight to their shadows. Later that afternoon, I was fixing Lily a snack when I saw a flash of movement outside. Karen jogging past with her tiny designer dog, pretending not to look at my house, as she absolutely stared. I watched her from the kitchen window, jaw clenched, shoulders tight. She could feel something shifting, but couldn't name it yet. She didn't know what I'd learned. Didn't know what I held in my drawer, in my email, in my quiet smile, but I did. And silence feels different when it isn't surrender anymore. It feels like loading a chamber with truth she doesn't know exists. I didn't wave, didn't glare, didn't react. I just sipped coffee slowly and let her jog past, because nothing unsettles a controlling person more than realizing their target isn't nervous, they're waiting. And I was waiting. Calm, patient, ready. The thing about battles is you don't always need to strike first. Sometimes you just need to know exactly what's yours and have the paperwork to prove it. She thought she had power. She didn't. She had noise, and noise always loses to truth. Some battles don't erupt all at once. They drip, creep, escalate in small, deliberate acts until one day you walk into your own space and realize someone believes your life is theirs to rearrange. It was a Thursday evening, 2 days after my trip to the county building. I'd just finished repairing a breaker panel across town, the kind of job where the homeowner still offers you lemonade because they believe in neighbors, not threats. By the time I pulled in, the sky was that soft purple only quiet neighborhoods get. The kind of evening you look forward to until chaos steals it. I opened my garage door and froze. Not one luxury SUV this time, two. Her white Lexus, same spot. But now wedged beside my workbench, pressed so tight it nearly touched my shelves, was a sleek black Mercedes. Absolutely not mine. My tools were gone. Not gone as in missing, gone as in relocated like unwanted furniture in someone else's remodel. Boxes stacked in a corner, cords tangled like someone yanked them up in a hurry. The worst part, my metal tool cabinet, the one that held my electrical testers, the last set of pliers my dad ever used, had a brand new silver padlock on it. Not mine. There's a particular kind of anger that doesn't shout, it chills, it tightens your chest, it sits behind your eyes like electricity waiting to jump. I stood there feeling the weight of it, letting my breath settle. If I reacted emotionally, she won. If I reacted stupidly, she got the chaos she wanted to use against me. Calm is a weapon, too. And I had learned to sharpen it. I pulled out my phone, hit record, started from the edge of the driveway, narrating softly as I walked. Thursday, 5:26 p.m., 2 unauthorized vehicles in my garage, tools moved, cabinet locked with unknown hardware, document. My voice sounded steady, too steady for how I felt, but steadiness was the point. Then she stepped outside like clockwork, like she'd been waiting behind her blinds for my truck to pull in. Sunglasses on, hair perfect, posture, stiff with confidence she hadn't earned. "Oh, Adam," she sighed, voice dripping with false sympathy. "I told you we were implementing temporary shared garage space for staging." Staging! She used that word again like my garage was a showroom in her personal real estate empire. I glanced at the Mercedes, a small decal on the window, a high-end realty firm logo. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. "You cannot record me without permission," she snapped when she noticed the phone. "I'm on my property," I answered calmly. "And I told you before one-party consent." She scoffed like I was a misbehaving student. "Brad and the board are fully aware of this arrangement." I didn't blink. "And the county deed is aware this garage is mine." Her smile twitched just once, but it was enough. Truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet crack in someone's confidence. I dialed the non-emergency police line. Her eyebrows shot up. "You're calling the police over parking." "Don't be dramatic." I didn't answer her. She wasn't the audience, the system was. 20 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up. Officer Martinez, mid-40s, steady eyes, the look of a man who's seen more neighbor disputes than birthday cakes. He took in the scene slow, like he already had a guess who the problem was. "What seems to be the issue?" he asked. I explained, calm, simple, just the facts, the deed paperwork sitting safely inside my house, if needed. Karen jumped in halfway, talking fast like a politician in a scandal interview. "We have emergency temporary staging needs for community property." The board approved. Martinez lifted a hand. "Ma'am, is this his garage?" "Yes, but is there any legal HOA clause allowing you to enter or use a homeowner's private garage without consent?" She froze. Silence, the loudest truth yet. He turned to me. "Everything here yours?" "Yes, sir?" He nodded. "Then this looks like trespassing and interference with personal property." He looked at her again, voice stern but professional. "Ma'am, I'm going to strongly advise you to remove both vehicles and return his tools immediately. If this continues, we may need to take a formal statement." Her face went red. Not embarrassed red caught red. You can see ego melting behind the eyes. "I'll call my husband," she hissed. Martinez shrugged. "You can call whoever you want. Doesn't change the law." That line, oh, that line, it was better than coffee. Karen stormed inside her house, heels stabbing the driveway like she was trying to pierce the earth itself. The Mercedes left first, a bit too quickly, like whoever was driving didn't want to be caught in the fallout. The Lexus followed moments later. When they pulled out, my garage looked different. Not just physically, but spiritually. Like someone had walked through my home with muddy boots. Martinez gave me his card. "If she comes back into your garage, call us. Don't confront her alone." "Thank you," I said. He nodded, then leaned in. People like that, they push until someone pushes back. Good job staying calm. When he drove off, I looked around. 3 neighbors stood outside watering plants, staring but pretending not to. A curtain moved. A dog walker paused way too long. Everyone felt the shift. They'd seen it before, but not like this. Not with someone saying no. Karen wasn't just losing control, she was losing witnesses in her corner. And controlling people don't fear punishment, they fear exposure. I walked into my garage, stood in the middle of the concrete floor, and took a long breath. My tools were scattered, my cabinet scratched from where someone had pried at it. But all I felt was clarity. She wanted a power struggle. She wanted noise. She wanted anger. Instead, she got documents, police reports, and a calm man she couldn't provoke. There's a moment in every fight where one person realizes they've chosen the wrong opponent. A flicker of awareness, a tightening of breath. That moment had arrived for her, and she knew it. There's a line every problem crosses where reacting stops being smart and starts being surrender. Karen thought she was escalating a power game. She didn't realize she was building her own cage. And the best part, I didn't have to slam the door. I just had to walk away and let her rattle the bars herself. That night, I called Derek, my old buddy from trade school, now a real estate lawyer. We hadn't talked in a month, but some friendships pick up like you just paused a movie, not ended it. I told him everything, the cars, the fines, the padlocked cabinet, the police, the deed. He didn't gasp or laugh, just let out a long sigh, the kind of sound you make when you've heard this story too many times. People like her don't stop, he said. They don't lose gracefully. They only break when there's nobody left to push. So what do? I asked, already half knowing what he'd say. His answer came without hesitation. Quiet, sharp, surgical disappear. I blinked. What? Leave. Go offline. Make no noise. If you remove yourself from her narrative, she'll implode trying to keep control. Narcissists don't know how to function without a target. You'll turn her own ego into a self-destruct button. I rubbed the back of my neck. It sounded dramatic, but then again, so did having my own garage turned into a car dealership without consent. Adam, he continued, voice firm in law. Silence is a tactic. It forces the other side to overplay. Let her obsess. Let her escalate. Let her show everyone who she really is. Meanwhile, you document everything. Silence is a weapon. It wasn't retaliation, it was restraint sharpened into strategy. And then he added, take Lily somewhere. Somewhere peaceful. She deserves to see you happy, not hunted. That sealed it. This wasn't just about me anymore. Maybe it never was. It hadn't been since the day I first pictured her hammering nails into her treehouse ladder. The next morning, I woke up early, made pancakes, and told Lily we were going camping. Her face lit up. Camping. Really? She squealed, bouncing in her chair. Can we make s'mores? I nodded. S'mores, hiking stars, the whole deal. 2 whole weeks. She clapped her hands so hard her fork almost flew. I hadn't seen her that excited in months. And right then I realized the universe had handed me a gift, disguised as harassment, an excuse to choose peace over conflict. My daughter over someone else's ego. I spent the day prepping, stocked the cooler, packed tents, cleaned the truck. Every item in the bin, every duffel. The plan felt clearer. I wasn't running. I was resetting the board. Let her knock on an empty house, scream into silence, reveal herself with no audience but her own echo. That evening, Tom from down the street stopped by. He leaned on the fence arms, crossed the way men do when they come to offer support without saying the word support. Heard the fireworks, he muttered. Yep. You leaving? He asked, eyeing the gear by the truck. Yeah, camping with Lily, clearing my head. He nodded slow. Good. She'll eat herself alive with no one to fight. I looked up surprised. You've dealt with her too. He chuckled. Everyone here has. Most just give up. You didn't. That scares her. Then he pointed a finger, sealing a pact. I'll watch the house. Cameras, locks, everything. She touches anything, I'll catch it. I didn't realize until then how much that meant, not the surveillance, the solidarity, Sometimes when you stand quietly, good people step beside you without needing applause or invitation. Before sunset, Mrs. Chen came by too, the sweetest retiree on the block, always gardening, always smiling. She handed Lily a small paper bag of homemade cookies and pressed my arm gently. "You go rest," she said in her soft voice. "Some weeds pull themselves when the gardener walks away. Wisdom disguised as muffins and dirt-stained gloves." I took it. That night, Lily fell asleep early, whispering about campfires. I walked into my garage alone, turned on the shop light. Bulbs buzzed, dust floated in the beam like tiny spirits. My workbench sat steady, my tools, my wood, my projects waiting. That garage had seen sweat plans, dreams, and the first blow of a battle I never asked for. I walked to the door, picked up the key, closed it slowly, then locked it. Not angrily, not defensively, ceremonially, like sealing a chapter, a quiet promise. This space is mine not because of walls or concrete, but because I built a life here, and no clipboard warrior was ever going to erase that. Outside, the porch light flickered on as I stepped into the night. Crickets hummed. A sprinkler hissed somewhere down the block. It was a peaceful neighborhood, just temporarily poisoned by one loud ego. I didn't slam the door behind me, just whispered to the empty porch, "See you soon," like I was leaving a friend in charge. Silence wasn't surrender. It was the trap. She'd wake up tomorrow expecting a fight, expecting resistance, expecting fuel. Instead, she'd find nothing. Nothing to argue with, nothing to push, nothing to dominate. And nothing eats a controlling person alive faster than a quiet they can't penetrate. Tomorrow, Lily and I would hit the road, mountains, trees, stars, laughter by the fire. And here in this perfect little suburb, Karen would discover what happens when the man she tried to control simply isn't there to control. Sometimes you win a war, not by swinging harder, but by stepping back and letting your enemies swing at air until they tire themselves into ruin. We left at sunrise. Lily sat in the passenger seat, stuffed bunny in one arm, granola bar in the other, swinging her feet and humming like happiness had finally found oxygen. The truck rumbled down quiet streets as sprinklers misted the lawns and early walkers waved at shadows, not knowing the story boiling beneath their calm neighborhood. In the rear view, our house shrank, then vanished behind a curve. Freedom smells like dust, pine trees, and gas station coffee. It wasn't running away. It was stepping out of the arena and letting the lion claw at an empty cage. The mountains greeted us with open arms. Streams whispered through rocks. Fire crackled at night. Lily chased butterflies like the world was made of nothing but wings and wonder. For the first time in months, my shoulders loosened. Breathing didn't feel like preparing for impact. But peace doesn't erase war. It just quiets you enough to hear your enemy crumbling. Day 2. My satellite device dinged a message from Tom. "She tried to open your garage at 6:15 a.m. Key didn't work." She was not happy. I pictured her in gym clothes, sunglasses at dawn, jiggling a spare key she probably convinced herself she deserved. That clip alone could have fed me for days, but she didn't stop. Control isn't a habit for her, it's oxygen. Day 3, she called a locksmith, told him I'd lost the key and she was helping. He left when Tom asked for a written work order. Day 4, HOA email blast about urgent community access needs. She's melting. I sat by a river that morning, watched Lily skip rocks and laughed quietly. The sound didn't feel forced. It felt earned. Week 1 ended, not with a bang, but with a digital tantrum. A neighborhood message warning of residents who leave town irresponsibly, putting community safety at risk. She wanted an audience. Silence gave her a mirror instead. Week 2 began with thunder, not from clouds, from stupidity. Tom's message came at noon. She just showed up with a fake inspector. I called him immediately. "You won't believe this. Guy showed up in a reflective vest clipboard with no company name, claimed your wiring was a hazard and needed emergency inspection." And I told him only the homeowner or county order can authorize entry. He left so fast he forgot his fake badge on your trash can lid. Got it on video. I pictured Karen pacing like a general whose troops were toddlers. Her world wasn't cracking, it was collapsing like wet cardboard. Meanwhile, Lily roasted marshmallows telling me a story about a magical squirrel kingdom like nothing bad ever existed in the universe. Kids don't know about HOA wars or power games. They know about sticky fingers and bedtime stars. I promised myself I'd keep it that way for her as long as I could. Week 3 arrived like a slow-building storm. You don't see the lightning at first, just feel pressure in the air. Tom's message dinged as I zipped the tent. "You ready for this?" She tried to bribe me. I called him. "Say that again." She showed up in yoga pants and desperation, offered me $500 to allow limited access to recover staging materials. She winked like we were accomplices in a spy film. I said her staging materials looked suspiciously like your tools. I recorded her offering to make my future permit approvals easier if I cooperated. I covered my face with my hand. She what? She tried to sell municipal favors like coupons. A moment later, Tom sent a picture of Karen standing in my driveway holding a briefcase like she was laundering cash for a movie villain. Except she looked like someone one sneeze away from a breakdown. That night, after Lily fell asleep in the tent, her hand still holding my thumb, I stared into the fire and thought about how far this had gone. She wanted power so badly she was willing to light her life on fire to prove she had it. Fire doesn't choose what it burns, ego is the same. Week 4, day 2. The device buzzed again, but this time Tom's tone was different. "We've gone full circus. Call me." I did. He answered, breathless, not scared, excited. "She hired someone." My stomach dropped. Hired someone. Some guy showed up with bolt cutters, said he was authorized by the HOA to access your property. I asked for paperwork. He showed a handwritten note on her personal stationery. "What happened?" I asked if he had a contractor's license. He said, "Karen said I don't need one." I told him breaking into private property is a felony. He panicked and tried to leave. I called the cops. Officer Martinez arrested him. I sat there stunned. Water trickled over stones like nature didn't care that suburban insanity had reached criminal comedy levels. Tom continued slower now. "Adam, she's gone. Not angry neighbor gone. I mean, she's fully unraveling. Posting at 2 a.m. in the neighborhood group calling random residents for backup. One voicemail said, 'We can't let working class negligence destroy our values.'" Someone screenshotted it. The neighborhood is laughing at her now. I exhaled, long, tired, satisfied. "Let her burn," I whispered. Sometimes the only way to show a tyrant they never had power is to let them choke on the silence when nobody obeys anymore. Lily tugged my sleeve. "Daddy, can we make hot chocolate?" I smiled. Best idea of the day. We made it on a tiny camp stove. She sipped hers with both hands, marshmallow foam on her lip, hair messy from sleep and mountains. She giggled at nothing, and that sound beat every victory I'd ever had. That was the point of peace, not winning, remembering what matters so winning doesn't poison you. 4 weeks passed like that serenity in the woods, chaos back home. Every day my device buzzed, documenting another piece of her unraveling. Her husband yelling at her on the porch, neighbors whispering in driveways, a board member resigning quietly. Facebook posts turning into public meltdowns, a complaint filed against her at the county office, and finally the whisper text from Tom Attorney General reps asked about you. This is bigger than her now. She wanted control. She created proof. She tried to silence a man who knew how to listen, document, and wait. Silence isn't surrender. It's strategy sharpened enough to draw blood without lifting a hand. 4 weeks later, we drove home through dusky streets. Lawns looked the same. Mailboxes still stood straight, but the air felt different. Like the neighborhood had finally exhaled a breath it had been holding for years. Lily gazed out the window and whispered, "It looks peaceful." I just gripped the wheel, voice low. "It finally is." And Karen, the self-appointed ruler of a place she never truly owned, was waiting for a fight that was already over. She just didn't know it yet. Coming home after 4 weeks in the mountains felt like stepping back into a dream you'd left halfway through. Streets the same. Hum of sprinklers. Smell of trimmed grass. It all looked unchanged, but whispers live in silence, and peace always feels different when you know a war was waged in your absence. I turned onto our street and saw the crowd. Before I saw my driveway neighbors in little clusters like after a summer storm, talking softly, eyes wide, phones out. Parked behind them, 2 white sedans with state seals on the doors. And farther down, a news van camera crew standing by like they were waiting for something to break. Didn't take long to see what they were here for. Karen's house sat under a gray sky, and for the first time since I'd known her, her curtains were open. She was standing in the window, hair, messy face, pale phone, pressed so tight against her cheek, it looked like she was holding on to it for life support. She saw my truck pull in and froze, eyes locking on me like I was the ghost she couldn't exorcise. I didn't look away. Sometimes justice doesn't scream, it just arrives and waits to be noticed. Tom walked up as I climbed out. "They served her this morning," he murmured quietly. "State Attorney's Office and City Ethics Board. Financial misconduct, property intimidation, unauthorized access, abuse of position." She tried to talk her way out of it. He gestured at the house like the collapse was self-explanatory. Right on cue, my phone buzzed, a voicemail. I didn't press play yet. I knew her voice would be there, shaking, begging, clawing at the edges of a power she no longer had. There's a sound people make when ego dies. It's not anger, it's confusion because they don't understand a world where they don't get obedience on demand. Inside my truck, I sat a moment. Lily leaned forward, peering out the window. "Why are there cameras here, Daddy?" I took a breath, steady and calm. Because the truth showed up. She blinked, nodded, accepting the answer the way only a kid can. I sent her inside with her bag and one instruction. Draw your treehouse plans. Kids should think about ladders and forts, not legal collapse. As soon as she disappeared through the front door, I finally pressed play. Her voice filled the cab, wild, broken, frantic. "Adam, please call me back. This is a misunderstanding and they're blowing it out of proportion." And Brad is furious. Next message, "You don't understand what you've started. The HOA needs leadership, and people like you don't." That came out wrong. Next, please, please, I can fix this. If you drop everything, if you tell them you exaggerated, we can settle. I'll waive every fine. I'll even just call me, please. Next, I didn't do anything wrong. You tricked me. You set me up. Everyone is turning against me. I gave this community structure. I protected property values, and now they're acting like I'm the villain. The last message wasn't a voice at all. It was just breathing. A tiny shaking breath trying to form a sentence that never came. 4 weeks ago, she would have fined me for leaving my broom leaning the wrong direction. Now she couldn't even find her own footing. I stepped out of the truck, walked to the edge of my lawn. A reporter spotted me, hurried over like a shark that smells blood. "Are you Adam Collins?" The homeowner involved in the HOA corruption complaints. Tom stepped in before I could answer. "No questions on his lawn." He crossed his arms. "You can talk at the sidewalk." She backed off. Respect or fear, sometimes they look the same. Down the street, another neighbor whispered, "She really thought she was untouchable." Someone else answered, "Nobody's untouchable when the truth arrives." Then Karen stepped out. She didn't walk. She stumbled. Sunglasses couldn't hide the exhaustion etched into her face. The woman who once strutted with perfect posture now clung to her porch railing like the world was tilting under her feet. She opened her mouth like she wanted to command the crowd, but power is air, and she had none left to breathe. Her voice came cracked, strained. "This is all a misunderstanding. I never abused anything. I was enforcing rules for all of you. I kept this place beautiful. I kept order. You needed me." Silence answered. Not agreement, not sympathy, just quiet. The kind that strips a person bare by refusing them the validation they once demanded. A single neighbor clapped slow, sarcastic, then turned and walked away. Others followed. Nothing hurts a tyrant like seeing loyalty evaporate without argument. An official from the state office approached her calmly. "Mrs. Whitmore, please return inside. We'll finish our interview momentarily." Her hands trembled. She still stared at me, not angry anymore, not powerful, lost, confused, like a queen realizing the crown was just metal and the throne was just wood. "Adam," she whispered, "why did you do this to me?" I didn't answer because I hadn't done anything to her. She did it all to herself. I simply refused to kneel. She retreated inside, and the door closed gently behind her, not slammed. That was the sign. Rage fights, defeat folds gently to avoid attention. I walked to my garage, opened the door, stepped inside. The sawdust smell filled the air, calm and earthy. My tools rested where they belonged. I placed my hand on the workbench the way people rest a hand on a dog's back or a loved one's shoulder, grounding, grateful, protective. Outside, news crews packed up officials, dispersed neighbors, whispered relief instead of fear. Power shifted quietly, not with fireworks, but with footsteps walking away from the person who once believed she owned the ground they trod. I didn't cheer, didn't smirk. Victory doesn't always feel like fire. Sometimes it feels like gravity returning steady, earned, honest. She fell alone because she built a throne instead of a community. She ruled instead of lived. And when a ruler with no kingdom faces truth, there's no audience left to watch them stand, only space for them to kneel in the silence they once demanded from everyone else. Coming home wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Victory doesn't always roar. Sometimes it exhales. The driveway felt the same under the tires, but the air around it held a new honesty, like the neighborhood had been holding its breath for months and finally let it go. I stepped out of my truck, and for the first time since moving here, I didn't feel watched. I felt welcomed. The first person to reach me was Mrs. Chen, tiny frame, warm eyes, holding a Tupperware of ginger cookies, like this was a celebration, not a return from battle. "Good to have you home, Adam," she said softly. "Peace suits the street better." Tom came next, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "Man of the hour," he grinned. "You ready?" "Ready for what?" He jerked his chin toward the elementary school parking lot. "HOA meeting. Full house. They want you there." There were murmurs as other neighbors approached. Nods, quiet. Thanks, those small gestures that mean more than applause because they come from people who lived the same fear, the same frustration, and finally saw someone refuse to bend. Inside the cafeteria, folding chairs creaked as bodies shifted nervously. The smell of floor wax and cafeteria pizza lingered like memories. At the front, a half-empty board table, only two of the old members showed up. Faces drained, shoulders slumped under the weight of the truth that finally caught them. A stack of printed evidence sat on the table, screenshots, letters, photographs. It wasn't paperwork anymore. It was a gravestone for entitlement. Every page a reminder that power used wrong eventually writes its own confession. Someone cleared their throat. The room quieted. "We're here." One remaining board member muttered to address the leadership changes and review misconduct allegations. Nobody looked at him, everyone looked at me. I didn't speak first, didn't need to. Truth already had the microphone. Sarah Mitchell, usually quiet, stood and lifted her phone. "Before we begin," she said, voice steady, "we'd like to play something." She pressed play. Karen's voicemails filled the room, every desperate apology, every frantic threat, every trembling moment where she begged a world she could no longer command. The room didn't laugh, didn't gasp. It listened. The silence afterward was the kind that ends an era. No one hated her. They pitied her because power isn't real when you lose yourself trying to keep it. A soft voice behind me. "Daddy." Lily tugged my sleeve, wide-eyed, clutching her bunny. She looked around at the adults, then up at the front, where the board sat like soldiers who lost a war they started. "Why is everyone here?" I knelt beside her. "We're talking about rules, sweetheart." She nodded like this made perfect sense in a 7-year-old's universe of fairness and tree houses. Then she pointed toward the front of the room and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Remember the rule. No mean people allowed. Some people chuckled, some wiped their eyes. The gentleman at the front cleared his throat again, this time softer, humbled. "Mr. Collins," he said, "would you like to address the community?" I didn't prepare a speech. Didn't need one. I walked to the front, slowly feeling the weight of every step, every violation notice, every quiet moment. I chose patience over fury. "I didn't come here to fight anyone," I said. "I moved here to build a home, to build a life for my daughter. And I believe a neighborhood isn't supposed to feel like a courtroom. It's supposed to feel like a community." Heads nodded. Not dramatic, not forced, just true. We all deserve respect. We all deserve peace. And none of us deserve to be afraid in our own driveways. Silence followed, not uneasy, but peaceful, settled. When I sat back down, Lily tugged my shirt. "Daddy." "Yes." Her voice was small but sure. "Can we go home and draw the treehouse? I want to add windows and a swing." I smiled. "Yeah, Peanut, we're going home." As we walked out, neighbors squeezed my arm, whispered thanks, held doors open. Respect isn't loud, it moves in quiet gestures. Outside, the sky glowed soft pink, the kind of sunset that forgives even the longest day. Lily skipped ahead, bunny swinging, humming the same tune she hummed when we left for the mountains. But this time the street looked different, not because the houses changed, but because the fear was gone. Home remembers who stands up for it. Home remembers who tries to take it. And home remembers who wins quietly. I locked my garage door behind us that evening, not out of defense, but out of gratitude. Inside sat tools, wood shavings, half-built dreams waiting to be finished. Tomorrow my daughter and I would start building again. Peace earned is the sweetest kind. And ours finally had a place to breathe.